It is past midnight, and I am sitting here looking at a spreadsheet that used to keep me awake for all the wrong reasons. I am 26 now, and reaching the $100,000 mark in my accounts did not feel like a lottery win. It felt like a long walk that finally led to a clear view. I think we need to have a very honest conversation about where your next dollar should actually go. There is so much noise online about crypto and options and getting rich by next Tuesday. I used to listen to that noise because I thought being successful with money meant being the smartest person in the room. I remember the first year I started making real money and I was trying to do everything at once. I was throwing money at individual stocks while carrying a balance on my credit card. I was trying to save for a house while ignoring my employer match. I genuinely thought I was a genius who could outsmart the basic laws of math. The truth is that I was just a kid in a dark room trying to find the door without a flashlight. Everything changed when I stopped looking for the magic trade and started following the financial order of operations. I want to walk you through this exact sequence because it is the most optimal way to handle your life. The first step is not about wealth at all, but about survival. You need to cover your deductibles and keep a small buffer of $500 to $1,000. This is the boring money that sits in a corner and does nothing, but that money is your armor against the small disasters of life, like a flat tire or a broken phone. If you do not have this buffer, every small inconvenience becomes a financial crisis that forces you back into debt. I call this protection money, and you cannot build a skyscraper on a swamp. Once you have that tiny shield, you move to the single greatest return on investment in the history of finance. You take your employer match. If your company offers a 401k match and you are not taking it, you are essentially walking past a pile of free cash. It is a 100% return that happens instantly before the market even opens. I do not care if you think the economy is crashing or if you are scared of volatility. Math does not care about your feelings, and a 100% gain is a mathematical certainty you cannot ignore. I have met so many people my age who skip this because they do not understand the paperwork. Call your HR department and get the match because it is the foundation of your future freedom. Now we have to address the predator in the room, which is high interest debt. This is usually credit cards or personal loans with interest rates above 10%. You cannot invest your way out of a 20% interest rate. The S&P 500 might give you 10% on a good year, but your credit card is taking 25% every single year. Trying to build wealth while carrying credit card debt is like trying to fill a bucket with a massive hole in the bottom. You have to plug the hole first. Paying off that debt is a guaranteed risk-free return on your money. It is the most aggressive move you can make for your net worth. Once that debt is dead and buried, we build the real emergency fund. This is 3 to 6 months of your actual living expenses sitting in a high-yield savings account. I use Capital One for mine because I like the interface, but the bank does not matter as much as the liquidity. This fund is not meant to make you rich. It is meant to keep you from becoming poor when you lose your job or your car engine explodes. Most people fail at investing because they are forced to sell their stocks during a downturn to pay for an emergency. A full emergency fund is the only thing that allows you to have a long-term mindset. It gives you the power to say no to bad jobs and stressful situations because you have a pile of cash in your corner. After the emergency fund is set, we look at the tax-free growth machines. I am obsessed with the Roth IRA and the HSA because taxes are the biggest drag on wealth over 40 years. In a Roth IRA, you pay the tax today and the government never gets to touch that money ever again. If you invest $7,000 this year and it grows to $100,000 by the time you retire, you keep every single cent. The HSA is even better because it is triple tax advantaged. I know the rules are annoying and the paperwork for HSAs can be a total nightmare. My own employer has a system that makes it hard to buy fractional shares and it drives me crazy, but I do it anyway because the math is simply too good to ignore. When you are 26, time is your greatest asset, and these tax-advantaged accounts are how you maximize that asset. Step 6 is where you go back and max out your 401k or your 403b. This is when your savings rate starts to hit 20 or 25% of your income. This is the hyperaccumulation phase where the snowball starts to move on its own. I will be honest with you and say that I actually deviate slightly from this step. I choose not to max out my 401k to the absolute limit because I prefer to have extra cash flow in my brokerage account. I know I am losing some tax benefits by doing this, but it is a conscious trade for flexibility. The important thing is that I know the cost of my decision. Most people make financial choices by accident, but we are making them by design. Step 7 is the taxable brokerage account, where you just buy index funds and leave them alone. The goal here is simple, which is to own the world and let the global economy work for you. You do not need to find the next Apple or the next Tesla. You just need to be in the game for 30 years without quitting. Step 8 is prepaying your future expenses like a house down payment or a wedding. This keeps your life organized so you never have to raid your retirement accounts for a life event. And finally, step 9 is paying off low-interest debt like a mortgage at this stage. You are already wealthy and you are just optimizing for peace of mind. The math might say you should keep the 3% mortgage and invest the difference, but sometimes the feeling of owning your home outright is worth more than a few extra points in a brokerage account. This whole process is not about being a genius, it is about the sequence. If you do these things in the wrong order, you will feel like you are running in sand. If you do them in the right order, you will feel like the wind is at your back. I am 26, and I have realized that wealth is not a trophy you win, but a garden you tend. It is slow, and it is often very boring. But the result of that boredom is a life where you never have to worry about a $500 emergency. The result is a life where you own your time. I want you to stop chasing the noise and start respecting the math. Look at your accounts tonight and figure out which step you are on. Do not skip ahead because you are bored. Stay on your step until the box is checked. I promise you that the view from 100K is much better when you know you built it on a solid foundation. I want to talk more about the psychology of that first step because people underestimate the power of the first $1,000. When you have $0 in the bank, every sound your car makes sounds like a disaster. Every time your boss walks into the room with a serious face, you feel a pit in your stomach. That is not a way to live, and it is certainly not a way to make good long-term decisions. That first $1,000 is not just cash, but it is the beginning of your personal sovereignty. It is the moment you stop being a victim of your circumstances and start being a manager of your risks. I remember when I hit my first $1,000 and I felt like I had reached the top of a mountain. Now looking back, it seems like such a small amount, but the emotional jump from 0 to 1,000 is bigger than the jump from 10,000 to 100,000. It is the hardest dollar you will ever save because you have to change your identity to get it. You have to stop being a consumer and start being a producer. You have to say no to the dinner out or the new shoes because you value your peace of mind more than the temporary hit of dopamine. Let us talk about the employer match again because I see so many people leaving hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table over their lifetime. If you work for 40 years and you never take the match, you are essentially working for a lower salary than your coworker who does. It is a voluntary pay cut. I used to think that the 401k was a scam because I could not touch the money until I was 60. But then I realized that the 60-year-old version of me is still me. He deserves to have a life that is not defined by struggle. By taking the match today, I am buying the freedom of a man I have not met yet. That is the ultimate act of self-love. Then we have the credit card debt, which is the most toxic thing in the financial world. Credit card companies are not your friends, and they are not providing a service. They are selling you a future that you cannot afford today, and they are charging you a premium that will keep you in a cage. I remember having $2,000 on a card when I was 20, and I felt the weight of it every single day. It felt like a shadow following me around. When I finally paid it off, it felt like I could breathe for the first time in months. If you have high interest debt, your only job in life is to kill it. Do not go to the movies and do not buy the fancy coffee and do not go on vacation. Kill the debt first so you can actually enjoy those things later without the guilt. The emergency fund is the bridge between the struggle and the stability. When you have 6 months of cash, you look at the world differently. You realize that most of the things people stress about are just temporary inconveniences. I have had car repairs that cost $2,000, and because of my emergency fund, I did not even get angry. I just swiped the card and moved on with my day. That lack of stress is a luxury that money can buy. It allows you to keep your cortisol levels low and your focus high. And then we get to the Roth IRA, which is the most beautiful account ever created by the government. The power of tax-free compounding is something that humans are not naturally wired to understand. We think linearly, but money grows exponentially. If you put $6,000 into a Roth when you are 20 and it earns 8%, it will be worth nearly $150,000 when you retire. And you did nothing but wait. You did not have to be a genius or pick the right stock. You just had to be patient and keep the government out of your pockets. The HSA is the secret weapon for the truly informed. Most people think it is just for doctor visits, but it is actually the ultimate retirement account. You get a tax break when you put the money in and it grows tax-free, and you can take it out tax-free for medical expenses. And if you reach 65 and you are healthy, you can take it out for anything else, just like a traditional IRA. It is the only triple win in the tax code. I spend a lot of time thinking about these things because I want to make sure I am playing the game correctly. I do not want to work harder than I have to. I want my money to work harder than I do when we talk about maxing out. Retirement accounts, we are talking about building an engine that produces cash while we sleep. The goal is to reach a point where your investments grow more in a single year than you earn at your job. That is the definition of financial independence. It is not about having a private jet or a mansion. It is about the math of your assets exceeding your liabilities and your expenses. I am 26 and I am not there yet, but I can see the path. I can see the destination because I have a map. The financial order of operations is that map. It tells me exactly what to do with the next $100 I earn. It removes the decision fatigue from my life. I do not have to wonder if I should buy Bitcoin or put money in my savings account. I just look at my current step and I execute. This discipline is what leads to the 100K and the 500K and eventually